let's talk about this do nothing strategy or task masking, which is a term that's new to me. Like, I'm very familiar with working in a unionized environment, quiet quitting, work to rule, that kind of stuff. But task masking was a new one for me. Had you heard of it before?
No, I'd never heard of it before.
So, task masking for our listeners means work done merely to appear busy. So, a little bit of a boondoggle there. It's just pretending that you're busy. So, if someone walks by, they see that you're working, which is exactly what many organizations forcing people back into the office like want to see. Like they are at their desk, they're typing away, and they're playing the part of what I expect their role to look like. And so workers are using this as a little bit of resistance. Yes, I am playing the part. They're picking up their laptop and walking into another room. They're typing away, pretending that they're doing something and they're actually not doing anything. But it's just a really interesting thing because I feel like leaders are not considering that this would be even a way of resistance that employees have available to them. Like, I would just look at someone typing and be like, yes, good, they're working.
Hi, friends. Ever wondered how you could turn your big ideas into results? Together, let's reimagine a better sector, tackle systemic issues, and yes, raise some serious cash. Welcome back to The Small Nonprofit, the podcast where your passion meets action.
Welcome back to another episode of the Small Nonprofit Podcast. Or if you're new here, welcome. Today, we're talking about something that definitely has impacted every single fundraiser and executive director that is listening right now. So, just to let you all in on this, we will be talking about remote work and coming back to the office. So, there's been a lot of new trends popping up as employers have forced their employees back in, and we're here to chat about them, aren't we, Caitlin?
Yeah, I'm excited to dive into this one. It's definitely something that's been a big part of everyone's life for the past, oh my God, almost exactly 5 years now. And yeah, lots of big discussions around it and big changes happening right now and big shifts. So it's good to dive into it and see who this impacts, who this actually benefits, and what the repercussions are.
It is super interesting to be chatting about this still. Like, I thought it was a one and done deal. Like, teams were going to realize that remote work is here to stay, that you can't force people back into the office without having some sort of like understandable and justifiable reason. Like, it can't just be like, we work better together in person if no one else feels that way. Yeah, I'm excited to dive into the kind of resistance that a lot of workers have been putting up at work. So whether that's like quiet quitting, which is something that we've definitely all heard about, or this new thing called task masking, which is really interesting and started this whole discussion between Caitlin and myself, or malicious compliance, something else that we're very familiar with.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to talk about here. And as you're right, it's so interesting that we're having this discussion because we were all forced into this situation 5 years ago. And we had this big realization that we can do this. Like, we can work from anywhere. This improves like people's personal lives. It improves like their family life. It can improve like their productivity, their well-being, their health, their mental health. And it also, we've talked about before how difficult it is to hire in the nonprofit space. Like, it really opens up the candidate pool for people, and you can have people from all over working for your organization and bringing their talents and skills. And also just the cost of living in cities right now too, like to be able to work remotely and get your job done without having to endure the huge rental costs of living in big cities like Toronto or Vancouver or Chicago or New York. Like, it just, yeah, there's so many benefits that we've seen. So it is really interesting to now see this big shift of everybody suddenly we're told you're not being productive enough or this is somehow going to help. But is it really? Is the data there? I don't know.
I just feel like a lot of us now expect flexibility to be an option, especially in the role of a fundraiser where ideally, like, I'm not in the office at all. I'm out having lunch with donors or I'm out in the community getting to hear stories. It's not about sitting at a desk most of the time fundraising.
Yeah, it's not about
And
sitting at a desk, and nor should it be, right? As you're saying, it needs to be out in the community.
Let's talk about this do nothing strategy or task masking, which is a term that's new to me. Like, I'm very familiar with working in a unionized environment, quiet quitting, work to rule, that kind of stuff. But task masking was a new one for me. Had you heard of it before?
No, I'd never heard of it before. Okay, so I've never heard of the term before, but I feel like I've heard anecdotally of people who I know who have had to go into the office because they're like, why am I here? What is the point of this?
I feel like this will be really relatable to people who don't have to spend 8 hours a day fully on as a staff person. Like maybe their job takes 3 hours a day, and the rest of the day they maybe get to work on something else or chat with other people. But most of the day is not actually spent working. So, task masking for our listeners means work done merely to appear busy. So a little bit of a boondoggle there. It's just pretending that you're busy. So if someone walks by, they see that you're working, which is exactly what many organizations forcing people back into the office like want to see. Like they are at their desk, they're typing away, and they're playing the part of what I expect their role to look like. And so workers are using this as a little bit of resistance. Yes, I am playing the part. They're picking up their laptop and walking into another room. They're typing away, pretending that they're doing something and they're actually not doing anything. But it's just a really interesting thing because I feel like leaders are not considering that this would be even a way of resistance that employees have available to them. Like, I would just look at someone typing and be like, yes, good, they're working.
Yeah, and it's interesting to think about that. And it just reminds me of some of the work situations that I've been, or people who I've known or worked with, the ones who would stay late and you'd think, oh, they're working so hard. And I remember working with somebody who stayed late every single day. They never left the office before 6 or 7 o'clock. But that was because they were really bad at their job. They weren't working productively. They were just taking so much longer to do the absolute bare minimum. So it appeared like they were working so hard, but they actually didn't do anything. So it's not about warming a seat. Warming a seat does not equal productivity and benefiting your organization and doing the work that you're hired to. There's other ways that you need to be measuring that rather than just, is this person's bum in their seat right now at a particular location?
Really wish that nonprofits would move towards measuring people's results versus their it's not even presence, it's just bums and seats. It's not even like how engaged are you with the organization outside of your role. It's like just pretending if you have one of those jobs where you have more time than tasks. Why do you think nonprofits are trying to push staff to work on site? Like knowing that there's long commutes and the cost of living and it's just not convenient. Like, why do you think nonprofits are still like, no, you have to work here?
I wish I knew the answer to that question. Sometimes I'm like, why? What is the point? But I think some of the reasoning is a little bit of an old school mentality that, like, oh, it's the collaboration and everything, and things have to get done in the office. And then on the flip side of that, maybe there's also like a lack of trust too. Like they need to see you working, they need to see you present, they need to be like supervising in that way, which to me feels actually really sad because I think if you need to be physically looking at your employee working to make sure that they're working, you've hired the wrong employee. Or you don't have the KPIs set so that you can actually measure the productivity on something else. They don't know what their deliverables are. Like there's something else going on there if you just have to bear witness to somebody working in order to trust that they're doing that. Like you should hire adults and trust that they're adults. To answer your question, I don't 100% know, but yeah, I'm curious. Like in your experience and talking to other nonprofits, are there any other reasons that you've seen for employees to be in office?
Honestly, from the ones that are requiring it, I feel like a lot of it comes from micromanagement. I need to watch you do your work. So I know that my role is secure, like I am your manager, but you should be able to manage remotely as well. Providing training for your managers so they're able to do that would be great. But just, I definitely feel like a lot of nonprofits might be tied to leases that they don't feel like they can break. With commercial leasing, it works a little bit different from residential, at least in my province of Ontario. But like leases are signed like 5 to 10 years at a time. And there's a penalty for breaking the lease. So it's not like an individual one where you're signing like maybe a year or like month to month or whatever. So I think that's a risk that nonprofits are also trying to balance with, do we even need an office space? My contract still has another 6 years on it. What do I do?
Yeah, and trying to make the best out of that investment because we don't like to waste money. Nobody does, but particularly the nonprofit space. And yeah, that's totally true. And I know some for-profit companies that like went through a huge, like expensive remodel of their office right before the pandemic and now are like very into getting people into the office because they're like, we spent millions of dollars on this. We need people to just be in the cafeteria and be in office space, even if it is not actually helping productivity. It's one of those like just investing more in a mistake that you made.
It's a cognitive bias called the sunk cost fallacy. So it's like you're willing to keep investing because you already spent on it, right? Which is not the logical way of doing things, but I understand why that feels like that's the only option.
I knew there was a name for it. Thank you.
No problem. So who do you think is like a good fit for remote work? Is it always appropriate? Who's not a good fit? How do you balance a kind of organizational environment versus just like one type of role?
Yeah, that's a really good point and good question. And I think, yeah, you're right. It's not a one size fits all, right? People are going to need different things at different points in their life and different points in their career. And I know for me, I'm working fully remote now, and that works for me in my life. When I did have a kind of hybrid situation, everything, it was actually quite nice to go into the office. I would go into the office like one day a week. It was never my most productive day. I will 100% put my hands up on that. But it was nice to be able to just connect with the team and build those relationships and have some in person time and go get a cup of coffee that I didn't have to make myself, like that kind of thing. And I think for people who are at different stages in their career, like maybe earlier in their career, it might be more beneficial to be in office if that is something that serves them and provides them with that support. If they want to have that kind of one-on-one mentorship, it might also help from a mental health perspective. If, somebody is at a younger stage in life, maybe they're living alone. If I was living alone by myself and then also remote working all the time, I think that would get challenging. So having an opportunity to be in person and to connect with other people can be beneficial at different points in your life. Remote working really works really well for people who have families. That's a huge one. I know for myself, the only reason that I'm able to have balance in my life and have family system that kind of works and also give my husband the opportunity to go into the office is because I work remotely. And that gives me the ability to do the daycare pickups and walk the dog during the day. And it is hugely beneficial. My life would not work if I was having to commute back and forth every day. And that would be a detriment to my career and my career development. And I think that would be really unfair. So I think remote working, it does particularly benefit working parents and especially moms who are usually in charge of childcare more than dads. Because if I was commuting every day, I think that I would probably not have the ability to work as much as I do. I would probably have to pull back on my career a little bit, which isn't something that I particularly want to do. So I think, yeah, you're right. It's not a one size fits all. And I think it's about trying to find some of that balance.
It's interesting because I also work 100% remotely. We both do, right? So aspects of that are really helpful for me. Like I get to have my own space. I get to take care of like my day-to-day things as they arise. Get your AC fixed or whatever it is in the middle of the day, right? So you don't have to take time off work to now go do that. I get to pop in to the dentist during my lunch break because it's so close to my place. So many benefits. But I feel like day to day, like the amount of Zoom meetings that I have can be quite draining. So I'm thinking like for people who have meetings every day, internal meetings, then being in person could be really nice, like socializing, spending time together, solving a problem together. But then when it's similar to my role where it's a lot of Zoom meetings, that starts to lose the appeal because now I'm on site and we all know nonprofit locations are not great acoustics. Like I've had times where I'm talking to large donors of the organization where people are behind the computer pointing at things, trying to get me to sign things. And it's like I'm talking to a supporter where I want to make sure that I'm on my game. So for me, like remote work really works well for roles that need privacy during the day because nonprofit spaces usually can't accommodate that or are in meetings all day. I think that can apply to people in programs as well. There's a lot of programs where that would be very easy, right? So I'm thinking about people based nonprofits. So if you talk to people who go through domestic violence or something and your day to day is having meetings with them and you need privacy, that could very easily be moved to a remote first option, right? So yeah, there's a lot of, like, people and roles it would suit, but we're just not being creative enough about it. Usually, it's the fundraisers get to work remotely. What about other people too, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I like that. And I think, yeah, you're right. There's definitely the variety of roles and everything that it can suit. And it is about making the working environment work for that role and that person and putting those things in place has just wide reaching benefits. We've already talked about some of them so far. Retention is huge, like being able to make your workplace a really great place to work and giving people that trust and autonomy to be able to manage their own schedules and know that what they're doing is making a difference. Doesn't matter where they do. It's not just about warming a seat, it's about the outputs and the work that you're doing in the community, wherever that is. As we talked about before, retention in the nonprofit space is just a huge issue and huge problem. So if you can treat people like they want to be treated and improve their well-being and make sure that talented people are going to stick around, then like why not? Why not? Trust your people.
So, to leave our audience with actionable tips, something that people can do is not making it a blanket statement in policy where like people do have the opportunity to opt in or opt out of the policy or can have more flexible workplace arrangements. So, whether that's I had to pick up my kid at this time and I need a more asynchronous working arrangement for half the day, right? There's so many ways to lead a human first and to really show people like this is a job, like we all really care about the job, but it's a job, right? And we really need to put our lives above that. So, yeah, I think flexible work arrangements, doing this in an individualized basis would be really helpful. But I'm wondering what other tips you have for our listeners.
Yeah, I just love that. And I love the phrase human first. I think that is just so powerful. And yeah, I think just really assessing who's this going to work for and who is it not going to work for. If it's something that is very like face-to-face program delivery, then yeah, remote working is not going to be suitable for it. If you're delivering children's programs in-house or something, then that's okay. Are there other ways that you can be flexible with that person rather than saying every single person needs to come in 3 days a week. And the only reason for that is so that you can be present in the office and I can actually see your face. Like, that's not a good enough reason. If the reason is, hey, we have our team meetings on Tuesdays, it's all internal, we just really want to connect and get on the same page, or maybe we have something big in house to do that day, that's a reason. That's fine. But really assess, like, why are people coming into the office? Who is this benefiting? And where people are most productive. Because as I said, when I had my hybrid work arrangement, my in-office days were not the most productive. If I was forced to be in the office 5 days a week, I would have been a lot worse at my job. This is actually not the same for everybody, but at home is where I actually am able to focus and able to concentrate rather than having distractions or interruptions. And that's not going to be the case for everyone. So I think rather than saying like mandatory return to office, everybody's got to be in X number of days, talk to your employees, see how it works best for them, see how they work best, and accommodate them and treat everybody like an adult because they are worth keeping.
I think that's a great place to end the episode. I agree with everything that you said. Like, just listen to your people, treat them like they want to be treated. If you put your best in people, they put their best in you. And I really believe that as a leader. Our staff are our biggest asset. So we just got to Make sure that we're really setting those clear expectations and also those clear intentions for when are we gathering, right? You wouldn't just walk into a meeting without an agenda. So why are you asking someone to commute for 2 hours each direction without a purpose, right? So, yeah, thanks
Yeah,
so much for sharing this conversation with me today.
this was great. Yeah, I think it's so important and good to talk about, and something that everybody's wrestling with right now, I feel like. So, yeah, good to get it out there.
So that's it for today's episode of the Small Nonprofit Podcast. I hope that this has given you something to chew on when it comes to remote work. Whether you're the person that's looking for a role that's hybrid or in person, or you are the hiring manager that's looking at why am I having difficulty hiring people? Why do they want to be remote? I hope that this gave you something to think about. As always, if you want to watch this episode on YouTube and see our lovely faces over there, please do so. And please subscribe. We want to get those numbers up. But that's it for today. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to another episode of The Small Nonprofit. If you want to continue the conversation, feel free to connect with our guests directly or find me on LinkedIn. Let's keep moving money to mission and prioritizing our well-being. Bye for now.